Make sure you watch this whole video to learn how to do the handstand push-up, especially if you are stuck at progressing through the variations.
Hello, welcome. Have you ever wanted to do a handstand push-up but you don't know how to build the volume for it? So when we're in the gym, where I'm actually coming back from, I was teaching my client this exact same thing with the handstand push-ups literally 10 minutes ago. So essentially, when it comes to anything in the gym with weights, you can much easier, you can overload much easier, for example. Let me just come to this red light here. So, for example, say you're doing an overhead press to build the strength in the shoulders and triceps for a handstand push-up. You can be moving with 15 kilogram overhead press, and then once that's too hard, you can then drop down to 8 kilogram, for example. You get extra reps in and you tire the muscles out some extra. That's what we call a drop set. But how can we do this without weights, with our own body weight? If you want to learn a handstand push-up, these exercises are vital, and getting this extra volume in is a tough thing to do, but definitely manageable. There are techniques to doing it without any weights, and I'm going to show you how to progress through those progressions.
So you see, volume when working out means something quite different to, volume as in, music or anything you're listening to. So when it comes to working out, volume essentially is the total amount of weight you've lifted over the set amount of sets and reps you're doing. So let's just take an overhead press, for example, right? So you've got 15 kilogram in each arm, right? So 15 kilogram and you're doing 10 reps. So 15 kilogram over 10 times, 10 repetitions, that is 150 kilogram. Now let's say you do that for 3 sets. 150 at 150 at 150 is 450 kilogram. That is the total volume that you've lifted in the overhead press, right? Now, with that being said, 15 kilogram can be quite a lot, and when you're looking to increase that weight and you can't necessarily lift 16 or 17 kilogram, the next step would be maybe do 15 kilogram for 10 and then grab 8, and then with the 8 do an extra 10. That way you're getting an extra 8 times 10 reps of volume, 80 kilogram per set. So you're now lifting more total volume without increasing the weight. Therefore you can then progress sooner to then lift more weight. Fairly simple. Feels harder than it sounds. But yeah, so how do we do that with bodyweight exercises? That is the question. So now, with all of that being said, I want you to figure out which of these exercises you can do and how many repetitions you can do these for. Now, I'm going to be using some push-up bars. They are not necessary. However, because I'm doing these on a stoned floor, it's nicer on the hands for me to do push-up bars there. So keep an eye out for these exercises. Keep an eye out for what ones you can do and take note of how many repetitions you can do those for. Let's get into it. Now, firstly, you should be able to do some push-ups, right? Just regular push-ups. The next step up from the push-ups, if you can't, by the way, then please do learn how to do push-ups. The next step from the push-up is the Hindu push-up, because it comes from yoga and Hinduism, or otherwise known as a dolphin push-up, my clients quite like to call it. So essentially, you're in a downward dog position, and then you're just coming down and then pushing back up and resetting. So it goes like this. Fairly simple there. Head to the floor, then chest, then hips, and then just recessing. Nice and easy, on to the next. Now exercise number 1 is the piked push-up. My hips are high, legs are fairly straight, my head is tucked down. I'm going head to the floor, pushing back up, all in the shoulders. How many can you do? Now my next exercise is the elevated pike push-ups. By putting your feet up on elevation, you shift more of the weight from your feet and legs onto your shoulders, making this exercise quite a lot harder, but the form is exactly the same. Now here on my trusty brick wall we have the handstand push-up wall assisted, but this one is back to the wall. This allows me to get a bit more of an arch, and again you put less pressure on the shoulders there before we do our next harder progression against the wall. So back against the wall, handstand push-ups. So our next one is the stomach to the wall handstand push-up, wall assisted, right? So with this, essentially, by putting your stomach to the wall, you can no longer lean so far forwards. What that means is you get less of an arch, and it puts a lot more pressure on the shoulders. Now, with this, you do want to stack yourself just like a handstand. No kind of feet here, arms out there, because if you do that, you put so much pressure on the upper chest. It doesn't actually mimic the handstand push-up, how we're going to start doing it in the progressions. So, fully stacked joints, all the way down, all the way back up, stomach to the wall push-ups. So our next two variations are quite tough ones. It's going to be the handstand raise from the crow position, and then the next one you will see and find out. So essentially we're in the crow position, standard yoga position, and then from that we're leaning forward and driving up. Okay, yeah, pretty much that. Now, once you've done the crow to handstand raise, the next step is the handstand raise from a kneeling position. Now, if this is too hard, you can practice going up and down in that crow position. So crow position, up into a handstand push-up, and then basically controlling that down back into the crow. That way you're getting the negative, the eccentric of the movement. That is a nicer, smaller progression, a half progression before we get to the actual handstand raise here. But with this handstand raise, we're flat on the feet and pretty much the same thing as the crow, only we haven't got the hips as high. We have to drive a lot more from that. So we'll move into this now. Now you can see this is where I'm currently at with my handstand work progression. It's the final progression. It's a tough one to get, but essentially that is the last progression before we then move on to the actual handstand push-up. So we'll get on to that. However, now I want to teach you how to put these into a workout program and how to do drop sets with these. So let's get into it. So by now you should know exactly what variations you can do and how many reps you can do them for. Now, each of these exercises is essentially like a heavier weight when we're doing the overhead press. You've got the hardest one you can possibly do, which is the handstand raise from, just on your knees there. And the easiest one, which is the Hindu push-up or the dolphin push-up. Now, the dolphin push-up would be like a 2 kilogram and the handstand raise would be like 18 kilogram, for example. Now, you want to start with the hardest one because that's when you've got the most energy, and then drop set your way through the progressions using the training method as many reps as you can. So basically, I'm going to be going from the hardest one I can do. Now, if the hardest one you can do is the elevated pike push-up, you start there and then you work your way down. If you can do stomach to the wall push-up, you start there and then you work your way down. So pretty much in the reverse order that I just demonstrated to you, and then you do that for reps, do that for sets, and that's essentially the training method there. So let me demonstrate.
Sometimes I think about myself. I wish I was somewhere else, far from my fear, anxiety, far from my weakness. I could be gone, but I'm just afraid. I refuse to fix the problem, and I think I can carry on. You can lie, you can try, but you'd like to leave this feeling. We got to breathe, to dig, to live the life we are dreaming. It could go wrong, but I'm just a nest. You must be lonely, but you could be crazy if you keep looking down. Don't you cry no more, even if I hate no more. Even if I want the more you're here, you don't need. Tears is in mine. Sometimes I think about
And geez, there we are. So that was just one set there. Now, as you can see, that's not how I'd usually train. Very simply because I'm just demonstrating here. I managed to get maybe 1 or 2 of the handstand raises quite good. The crow raises, I couldn't get one because my shoulders were already too tired, which probably shows that I should start with the crow or even start with a stomach to the wall variation. It's essentially a game now of which variations you start with to allow you to get the most quality reps throughout the whole of the workout. So you even saw here with the back to the wall handstand push-up, I was too close to the wall, meaning I was falling back a few times. That was just me not paying attention because my arms were already getting bumped. So therefore, I shouldn't start as high in the progressions. Even though I can do a handstand raise, that's not where I begin. I begin where I can get the most quality reps throughout the whole of the set there. But then, yeah, essentially I finished up on the Hindu push-ups there, the dolphin push-ups, but my SD card ran out, so I don't know how much of that I got. But that's essentially it. That's how we do drop sets. Because we don't have, the benefit of, right, we'll just take 2 kilogram off, take an extra 2 kilogram off as we go. So we have to change the load we're applying onto the muscle we're working by changing the variation, by changing the leverage. That's how we do a drop set to learn the handstand push-up. Now, with all of that being said, how do we actually do a handstand push-up? This is your training. You don't go into a weight session going, right, I'm going to overhead press my body weight. No, you train up to it. You build the foundation. This is you building the foundation. It's you building the muscle, building the power, building that nervous system ability just to remember that movement, to get the right muscle recruitment. This is your training. So you do this and you do this. And maybe at the start of every kind of handstand push-up training session, you try a handstand push-up. And you'll see over the weeks and over the months, you get closer and closer to the handstand push-up, and then you can start changing the variations you do in the progression you start at when you do the drop set. However, this is just one method of training for this. There are loads of other methods, including a hybrid of using weights and using body weight, but this is just a pure body weight variation of this training method, using this drop set methodology essentially. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Train smart, train safely, and have fun with it.